Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us again for another beautiful 1950s Fun Chat. And Jackie, this chatter tonight takes us back to our childhood when in reconnecting with memories of our lives as having Bismarck, North Dakota as our go-to city, and how fun this will be, at least I know it will be for us, and it will be for our viewers too, to learn the story of this beautiful lady.
Okay, so welcome all. Before we start though, do note the banner, the purple banner. www. While the Windmill Watch gives you all sorts of information about the book, which is in the upper right-hand corner. While the Windmill Watch, a slice of rural America in the 1950s, and it also talks about the authors, where we will be, where we have been, and all the 149, this is 49, chats that we have recorded. And what this has kind of morphed into being is a history of the 1950s in so many different areas, You'll have to just check them all out. So we'll begin right now. A lifelong resident from birth to the present time of Bismarck, North Dakota, native Susan Walker Weiand came into this world and into the family business in 1957, the third of four children. They are Alan, Karen, Susan, our guest, and Sharon. Susan graduated from Bismarck High, continued her education for 2 years at Bismarck Junior College, which is now known as Bismarck State College, and then graduated from Mary College, now known as the University of Mary, with a double major in business and accounting. This year, Susan and her husband, Larry, celebrate 47 years of togetherness. They have 2 daughters and 6 grandchildren, and 2 of the grandchildren are engaged, so the family continues. Susan, welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat.
Thank you. I'm going to enjoy this, I hope.
You will. We've got
what's that little tinkling in the background there, Susan?
That is one of many of our clocks going off. We're asked all the time if we've got them set to the right time, and the answer is absolutely no. Someone is always talking at any time.
Well, yep. Go ahead, Jackie.
All right. Well, Susan, so please give us a brief history of your family's jewelry store located in Bismarck, North Dakota, and emphasize the decade of the 1950s, please. And I know this goes back many generations. You're on.
All right. Our store started in 1934 with my grandfather. He and his new wife came to Bismarck in 1929, and he worked for a jewelry store. And in 1934, he got laid off because of the economy and the depression going on. So he decided, well, if I don't have a job, I guess I'll start one. And he was in watch repair, and that was his job, his life. He loved watches.
And so did he have training previous to that?
Yes.
Or classes or anything?
He went to school at the Illinois Watch School. In fact, he was on the basketball team there.
Okay.
Who knew? Yeah, exactly. We have photos of him in his basketball uniform, and we have the pictures of his dorm room, and it's just really kind of interesting.
And so the name of the store that he started is what?
It was Walker's Jewelry.
Okay. And it's metamorphosed. It's metamorphosed into, what is the name of your business now?
The store now is called Walker's and Daughters Jewelers.
And when did that name change happen?
That came getting back to the store when my grandfather owned it. It was strictly a watch shop. He fixed watches and he sold watches. He started dabbling a little bit into wedding sets. Very, very little. Okay. And that was when Dad started getting involved, because at the time backtrack a little bit. Dad graduated from University of Wisconsin in 52. He and my mom got married in February of 52, graduated in the spring. He got drafted in 52.
Oh,
They moved right away to the East Coast, I believe Pennsylvania, Maryland area. And in 54, he was discharged. And at the time, he was working for a refinery out on the East Coast. At that time, they were just starting to build the Mandan refinery. So if you can imagine being in this office or this auditorium, and they were talking about this new refinery building up, and do we have any volunteers that would like to go to Mandan, North Dakota? Dad was the only one who said, I'll go.
Lucky you.
And they kind of wondered why. Well, that was Dad's hometown.
sure.
So, Grandpa, his father was already here having a business. So Dad moved the family here, I believe, in 1956, working at the refinery full time. And Dad was a go-getter, absolutely a go-getter. So when he wasn't working, he was putzing around in Grandpa's store. And that was, in the 50s. Well, in the 60s, Dad started adding more and more merchandise to the store. Well, when he bought the building in the early 70s, the building we're still in now, is when Dad really expanded the jewelry, kind of took over all the merchandising. Grandpa was still doing a little bit of watch repair. And he decided, we need an updated name change. And everybody always hears somebody and Sons.
Yes.
Well, my brother is a Walker, and he will always be a Walker. So which is why Walkers is plural.
Okay.
Daughters is plural because he had 3 daughters. And at that time frame too, he's like, oh, please don't let my daughters, they'll always be daughters, but I don't want them to stay Walkers.
Yes. Do you think he ever anticipated that his children will be part of the store at that time?
I don't think he anticipated how involved we are. We all worked in the store, and I think I started in the 4th grade. All through junior high, all through high school. I worked here during when I was going to college. And when Larry and I got married, I still worked here part-time, going to school and raising the 2 girls.
Have you been a part of all the activities and jobs involved with being in a retail business, or have you been strictly veered in a certain area in the business?
When I first started, I would work alongside my grandpa, bugging him, what are you doing? How come you're doing that? Whatever. And he would give me little odd jobs to do. I learned right away how to size watch bands, especially, remember the old Twist-A-Flex?
Yes.
That's everybody's nightmare. I like to do them. And then if somebody would bring in a chain that's tangled, here, you can play with this. Get the knot out of the chain for me. And I get the knot out for him.
What were the styles of watch bands back then, or in the 50s even?
Well, more so in the 50s and 60s, watches were a necessity. They were simple, they were plain, they were very easy to read. You had the dark numbers, the white face. We sold a lot of the railroad approved watches, which were, you had the 12 numbers, and then you had the 13 through 24 on the inside.
Okay.
And the railroad was very strict as to what watches qualified.
Is that called
when you worked for them?
Okay. Was that called military time?
Yes, because they did the 24-hour. Yes.
Okay.
All righty. So then, did you have many people who worked for the railroad come in to your shop to buy a watch?
We did, because the railroad was ran through Bismarck. And
Yes. And the location of your shop, where in downtown Bismarck?
We are at 118 North 5th Street.
Okay.
So we're a half a block north of Main Avenue.
Yeah.
All right. So are you across the street from the old bakery?
Nope, we're across the street from White Drug.
Yeah, okay. And then right next to that was the bakery, I think. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess. But we'll go on to.
I don't remember the bakery.
Okay. So how have societal changes influenced what items were offered to clients during the 50s compared to what is offered today?
Biggest difference is probably the kitchen. And by that, I mean, when girls got engaged right away, they went to the local jewelry store, they picked out their china pattern, they picked out their glassware, and they picked out their silverware pattern. And then until, the 4 or 6 months that is their engagement, that's when, relatives, family, friends would come in, pick out what they wanted to give in the price range. And they'd either take the piece or they'd leave it with us. We'd gift wrap it and deliver it, once a week. We'd take it off.
Okay.
And nowadays, brides register at Target, Amazon for everything but china and dishes.
And Susan, since that was part of your inventory in the 50s, and you mentioned that now they go to different places. What took over those spaces in your store where you didn't have offering that?
Let me see if I can switch this over. There you go. This whole area was full of our china samples and our dish and china and our silverware and our glassware. Let me get back into there. And I know Dad struggled with, we get rid of all that. We've got this huge area. What in the world are we going to use to fill it that isn't going to cost an arm and a leg? Because if you can imagine filling all that up with diamonds and jewelry, it would have been amazing.
Yes.
So that's when he decided to get into clocks. And he was doing all the clock, he started doing, once we bought the clocks and started selling them, then he had to figure out how to service them.
Sure.
And being, he was a chemical engineer by education, and it fit right in.
Yes. And do you find then that clocks are often given as wedding gifts?
They still are. Not that grandfather clocks as much. Let's swing back over here. But we do a lot with, the wall clocks, and where are my mantle clocks? And then some of my mantle clocks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Those have been around for eons.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting clock. Whoops, go back the other way again. Up above there. That thing going back and forth, that whatever that is going back and forth.
The pendulum.
There it is.
Yeah, pendulum.
That's a pendulum.
And what's that? Is that a wire? A decoration?
Yep, it's just a filigree wire, and then the pendulum is there.
Wow, that's interesting.
So do you ever get any Seth Thomas clocks from the turn of the century?
We do.
Do you? Okay.
Once you know how to fix a clock, is that kind of gold standardized? Or does it vary from clock to
Yes
clock?
and no. They're pretty consistent, but then they all have their own little tweak.
Well, surely in a jewelry store, you sell jewelry.
Absolutely. I love the jewelry.
Tell us about the jewelry inventory and how was, you said when gals got engaged, they would come in and of course get all of the tableware and register for that. But if they chose a setting for their engagement ring or a certain ring style, what might it have been in the 50s versus how have jewelry styles, diamond settings, how have they changed through the decades?
I think the biggest difference is back in the 50s, and a lot of the gals didn't know that they were going to be proposed to. It was more of a surprise. And, the gentleman would come in, figure out what fits in his budget. Very seldom were they ever made payments on. $400 in their pocket, that's what they spent. They did not spend $450. If they had $100, that's what they spent.
Yes, yes.
But-
Well, that was so true back then because
Yes.
really there wasn't a credit card system back then. And if like it, the norm was, as it was with our folks, you earn the money first and then you
Yep, and then you spent it. Yep. If
Mhm.
you didn't have money in your hands, you didn't spend it.
yes.
right.
And did they often find at the same time then the set, the wedding ring or a band to go with?
Yep. A lot of times it was like what we called a trio set,
Ah, okay.
where you'd have the engagement, the wedding band, and then a matching man's band.
Ah, okay.
So
Very
when did men start wearing wedding rings that were beyond the just a plain old gold ring? When did they start getting decorative?
probably more about in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
And then they just, really evolved since then. And now they've come out with the silicone bands,
Yeah.
Yes.
which a lot of the guys are using almost as a promise ring.
Oh,
So they get the silicone band first when she gets her engagement, and then he gets a real ring on the day of the wedding.
So
so
he's
what
kind of
with- many of the rings I see are black, maybe with gold.
Yes.
When did that come into being?
Probably in the last 10 years.
Oh, okay. And why is that appealing?
I have no idea.
well, I think for people in the food industry, you can wear that because you can't wear stones when you're
Correct.
in the food industry. And same way when our dad had a wedding band, but he never wore it because he was concerned about getting his fingers on the
Yes.
farm hooked
Yep.
caught with
He,
that.
he did get a caught in it, and yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, ouch.
I've never even seen that one.
Oh, a long
Yeah.
time ago, I think he had it in a dresser drawer, but I don't
Okay.
know. what-
Anyway, that's not here
Yes.
or there.
And so the silicone, I think, is probably for people who are working men.
Yes,
Mhm.
on the farm.
Yeah, it's a
We're even electricians, carpenters.
yep.
Mhm.
And I know, getting back to the railroad, they are not allowed to wear any ring, not even the silicone.
Yeah, for safety reasons, I
For
suppose.
safety, yes, because if they look at the camera and they see even a silicone band on them, it still looks like a ring, but rather than silicone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely no rings.
When
Right.
I see in a catalog or in television advertising when jewelry is shown, I see oftentimes such beautifully intricate
Yes.
settings.
Delicate.
Yes, and I don't recall that design way back when we were thinking about walking the earth of marriage.
Yeah. Back in the 50s, things were much more simpler. It wasn't so, you didn't get something for flashy. You were just very, very, subdued and simpler. But we're finding too, I'm getting a lot of the new rings I'm getting now are actually old rings that they've pulled out of circulate, or they pulled out the old molds out and started making them again.
Uh-huh.
So it's that old saying, if you wait long enough, what went around comes around.
Right.
The retro rings.
Yes.
Susan, go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to say, now let's get into the technology. How have advances in technology evolved the jewelry business?
It leaps and bounds. Absolutely. Because about 5 years ago, we started doing a lot of custom work, and that's all computer generated. I'm starting to get more into the AI. I'm going to a class in August on how to incorporate that into things. So I don't know that much about it yet, but it's coming.
Yes. Okay. So do you have anyone on staff that is a jewelry designer, or if people want that service, they go somewhere else?
No,
You?
I do a lot of designing.
Oh, cool. I bet that's fun.
It really is. It really is. That's why when I went to school, my mindset was strictly on accounting. I lasted about 3 weeks there. I needed people.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And designing, I like picking people's brains and just listening to them, figuring out what they do for work, how it all coordinates, and come up with a beautiful, beautiful piece.
Oh, how exciting.
It's just amazing.
Yes.
For you and the couple.
Yes.
And I imagine this kind of also carries over into designing other types of rings, not necessarily wedding sets.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite piece of jewelry that you've designed for someone that really caught your heart?
Probably the one that I just did, and I probably shouldn't talk about it though.
Okay, well, that's fine then.
Well, I'll pick on another one.
Okay.
A gal came in. She had just inherited her grandfather's plain, very simple gold wedding band. And she was trying to figure out what to do with it, and how we got to necklaces, I don't know, because she didn't wear rings. So we started looking at different pendants, and we figured out a way to take a pendant that she found in the store that had her birthstone in and hooked it inside the gold ring.
Oh.
So it was like you had the circle, and then you had the pendant.
Yeah.
So she had grandpa around her at all times.
Oh,
And it was just sweet.
yeah. So what stone was chosen?
Her birthstone was in November. So it was a very pretty citrine, which was perfect, because you had the golden stone and then the golden ring.
Yes. Do you get a lot of people bringing in heritage jewelry?
Yes.
Who want it updated?
Restyled?
Either updated or just, is this anything of value or is this not? I do a lot of that too. I can tell you if it's a diamond or not. Yes, I know it's not a diamond, but it was something Dad found for Mom, so I want to put it in a, design something. And we've done anything from just a very simple solitaire pendant to very ornate.
Is your store in your jewelry store in Bismarck? There are, at the time anyway, in the 50s, there were quite a few of them. I'm unsure how many are there now. But are you unique in that you do design jewelry, or is that pretty common with the jewelry store?
It's getting more and more common.
Okay. All right.
I would love to say I'm the only one that does it, but would not be truthful.
And my husband has a cameo that was from his mom's side of the family, cameo necklace. Yep. Has that ever been restyled? That type of design? I'm thinking, how can we take it out of the bank box and take it? And
we should be wearing it. Yeah. Is it a pendant or a brooch or?
It's a pendant.
Okay.
But it's pretty large.
Do you wear necklaces?
No, I haven't.
Okay, then maybe we should make it into a brooch, or maybe if it's that large, it might be too big for a ring.
Yeah, it is quite large.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we can talk about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Come and see me.
Do you ever see?
We will.
Do you ever see cameos anymore?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, we do.
Oh, at one time, Mom had one with a light blue background.
Yes.
Are those still around?
I have it.
Yeah.
You looked out.
So what other styles of necklaces might have been popular in the 50s?
Probably a lot of, you remember all the big crystals, just 3-strand crystals, necklaces. I just strung one the other day for a gal because she inherited it. And of course, we're not as skinny as what the women were back in the 50s. So we needed to lengthen it a little bit so she could wear it.
Okay.
And, a lot of those, you have the glass beads, whether they're crisp or they're clear. I've seen a lot of red ones and some blue ones. And then they always have, the big matching earrings to go with it. Sometimes you get the bracelet.
Yeah.
Speaking of earrings, back in the 50s, they were really pierced earrings, were they? Weren't they more the clip-on?
Not many. A lot of them were still the clip-on or the screw-on.
Yes. And how I can remember playing with some of Mom's jewelry. How that hurt.
Hurts. Yes.
Done.
Yeah. So now pearls have been around for eons.
Yes.
Are they still purchased?
Absolutely. What has been popular with us have been the Atta pearls, where you buy just one single pearl on a gold chain or a silver chain, and then as she grows, she gets more and more pearls. So hopefully, by the time we have a wedding, we have a full strand.
Okay, that brings me to the question of these are cultured pearls, and what does a cultured pearl cost? One of them.
Single cultured pearl anywhere from I suppose about $15 on up, depending on size and quality.
Okay.
What makes a cultured pearl?
Mm-hmm.
There's three ways of having pearls. You have the Oriental pearls, which are totally by accident. Man had nothing to do with it except open up the mollusk, and there goes another clock. Opens up the mollusk, and there's a pearl in there. And they're usually very small, but they have much more brilliance, luminous to them.
Iridescent, kind of.
Thank you. The cultured pearls, which man sticks an irritation into the mollusk, and then the pearl develops.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the synthetic pearls, which is usually just a white bead that they dip in mother of pearl, and then you have that.
So is the first one where it's a natural pearl, is that of more value than a cultured pearl?
Very much so. And in jewelry, it all depends on rarity. The more rare something is, the more valuable it is.
Yes.
And in the Oriental pearls, yes, very rare.
Okay.
What is the largest diamond that you've ever sold or put into a ring?
That would be a couple of years ago. I sold a 4.2 carat. It was just a very beautiful round diamond ring, or round diamond that went into a very striking pendant, or excuse me, I'm all wrong. It went into a very striking ring, and she insisted on a 4.2 because it was for her 42nd anniversary.
Way to go. Stick to the guns, lady. So besides the clarity, the color, clarity, the cut, etc., in white diamonds, do you sell black diamonds or yellow diamonds?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And you pretty much have these diamonds hanging around just for
in the thing.
Yep, all around.
Okay, for someone coming in to say, this is what I want, and then you have the opportunity to style a setting for it.
Yes. And if I don't have exactly, the stone he wants at the time, I can very easily call a couple of my suppliers and I have them the next day.
Okay. And now, Susan, folks might want to know that we've talked about Walker's and then eventually Walker's and Daughters jewelry store. Yes. But is there only one of those?
We do have two locations.
Okay. And
the main store, which is on 5th Street, and then we do have a smaller shop in the Kirkwood Mall. And we don't do any of the repairs there. We just do the selling and some of the designing. And that's usually where I'm at.
Okay. Has it been hard to join those two stores together?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
And it's been.
And do you find a different type of clientele who shops at your downtown store versus your Kirkwood store in Bismarck?
Absolutely. In years past, when my folks were alive and they worked at the downtown store, it was very truly that generation that would come down and see them. And that generation, and that would be the styling. They did a lot more of the remounts, where down at Kirkwood, where I was, it was more the newer customers and the bigger bling and whatnot. But yeah, it's kind of meshed closer together now, because now I'm the old generation.
Yeah. Well, maybe
that happens, doesn't it?
I know.
Yes.
You're more mature, more knowledgeable, you're smarter.
There you go.
You know things.
Has I'm going to say the personalities of your customers changed over the decades in regard to being receptive to the ideas that you might have for styles of jewelry versus what they have in mind? Are they all pretty open to hearing what you might have to say to make a beautiful piece of jewelry for them?
Okay. A lot of times the women come in because they've already done the Google and the Etsy and all their snooping, that they're pretty set in what they want. And then I go, okay, just for shits and giggles, try this. And they kind of look at it and they go, oh, I never thought of that.
I like that.
So that kind of gets me in the door to don't have something, a closed angle.
Yeah.
Let's try to check other things out too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can usually talk them into at least looking at it.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
That's
can
right.
tell, yeah, no, that didn't work. Okay, I'll leave that alone. We'll try something else.
Susan, when you were a little girl, did you play dress up with a lot of jewelry? Pretend jewelry?
I didn't.
Woolworth's jewelry?
That I never did. My growing up, as long as I was outside running around, riding bikes, playing, all the tag, frozen tag, eeny, miny, over, all those games, I was happy.
Uh-huh.
I was too much of an outdoors.
Are other family members involved in the business now too?
As of right now, only my brother.
Okay.
My two sisters, when they got out of college, they did their own thing on computers. My older sister, Karen, ended up in Canada, Boston, and then in Grand Forks, and then eventually in Oklahoma, doing computer programming.
Uh-huh.
And then she ended up coming back to Bismarck about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And she's fully retired. And then my younger sister ended up out in California, and she worked for Hughes Aircraft, which is now, I think, Raytheon. And she's now retired and just enjoying traveling, visiting her kids.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of kids, what about your children? Are they interested in joining the company?
Both my girls growing up worked for me part-time, during schoolwork and during their times in college. Both of them have different careers right now. I think they might. I mean, they still work for me when I, say, hey, I've got a weekend I need some help with. Can you fill in? And they're more than willing.
Nice.
So they've always kept their fingers, so to speak. And now I've got two grandchildren that are working for me part-time.
Okay, good.
One of them is the one that is engaged.
Okay.
And she brings her fiance every once in a while to the store while she's working, and he's busy picking things out and what's this, and just kind of learning the trade. So I don't know if there might be interest in the future.
Okay.
And then the other one is my 14-year-old grandson, and he loves working on watches.
Oh, good.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I have a question back 15 minutes or so, and that is, besides diamonds, what is one or several of the most popular stones that you work with?
We work with a lot of color.
Mm-hmm.
Mom was always one to have colored gems in the store.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd gone to a jewelry show one year, and I came home and says, Dad, I've got good news and bad news. And he's like, okay, what? I said, well, the good news is I won travel vouchers to go to Germany to look at colored stones and Amsterdam. Bad news is I'm going.
Yeah. Take it earlier.
That's right. And it was, going into that vault of all those colored stones, I was like a kid in a candy store.
I guess.
It was amazing. So, we work with every color imaginable.
Okay.
And diamonds come in all colors too. So that was even.
They do. Yes, they do.
Susan, I remember in Bismarck in the 50s, at Christmas time, it just seemed like in downtown Bismarck, it was so magical.
Mm-hmm.
There was usually snow all the time. It was usually cold. But there were the hustle and bustle of the downtown Bismarck environment, shopping area.
Mhm.
It was exciting. And do you still find that to be true in today's world, that Christmas really is an exciting time, or does it just kind of become a time that people buy gifts?
Yes and no. And something that we've been doing for the last, 3 or 4 years down at the main shop here is we have a cocoa crawl in Christmas during the Christmas season. And what it is, 15, 20 different small stores in Bismarck get together and we all have something.
Well,
You know,
involving cocoa?
exactly. And chocolate. I mean, what could be better?
Especially combined with diamonds.
Yeah, even that. I've got chocolate diamonds. Absolutely.
Does some business
And that kind of reminds me back of the 50s because
Yeah.
they come in just big groups and
Mhm.
they want to look at everything and just take over. And we usually get some singers that will go around town singing.
Carolers.
We've got Scrooge comes around and we get Santa Claus comes to bops in every once in a while. So, that reminds me a lot of the old times back in, 50s and the carefree days.
Yes. So is there a store that pipes out Christmas music?
No,
There you go.
there you go. Yeah, we need that.
Yeah, I kind of remember that, but
There,
Anyway.
there might be copyright laws that are different now to
but if you purchase the music already,
There you go.
just play it.
Yeah.
Put it on the mic.
I've got an idea for this December now.
Right. And no charge.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
June used to be the traditional month for weddings.
Yes.
Is it still?
There's still a lot of weddings in June, but every month goes now.
Mhm.
I think the month that affects me the most is actually August, September,
Mhm.
which is kind of surprising, but that's when he goes off to college, she stays home, or they both go off to college, different colleges, and he wants to make sure she remembers me.
Ah,
So ring gets put on, and
okay.
Is it an engagement ring or just a ring?
Promise
Keepsake ring that to
We've
remember.
either or.
Mhm, okay.
But it's
Then-
usually a ring just to make sure she puts it on that left hand and she's taken.
Okay. And also, like October weddings are after the harvest is done, after the
Yes.
grain has been sold or whatever happens to be. The work is done, and now you can enjoy a wedding without having to.
Unless
Yeah.
you're a hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you bring in special inventory for the Christmas shopping season?
Oh, yes. We bring in, some of the more, not so much of the classic pieces, but more of the fun and more, yes. Trying to think of that word and I can't. More
Uh,
the,
no.
Can't either.
Is it
more
ostentatious?
the fashionable pieces. There it is.
Oh, ostentatious, maybe. even.
Yes.
Yes. Do you find that women and men are just as excited to wear jewelry?
Oh, the men have definitely picked up.
Hmm.
And how do they lean? What are they?
I have no idea. I'll pick on my husband this time. When we first got married, I love picking on him. He had one watch and it was a Timex.
Uh-huh.
Of course.
And he always said, I don't need anything else. It's like,
He
okay,
married the wrong gal.
I know. Well, he now has a collection of about 15 watches
Oh.
and he never wore rings. He now wears a wedding band on one hand and a right hand ring.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it a dinner ring, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I've kind of brought him up.
All right. Good.
But I think
He's
that's
still
true
up.
with most men.
Yes. And how about necklaces for men? Do you sell quite a few of those?
Oh, especially the chains for the high school and younger.
Oh.
In fact, I took my granddaughter to a show a couple years ago. And she comes over to me and she goes, Grandma, I got to show you this new line. I don't need a new line. But Grandma, come on, just look. No, I don't want a new line. Grandma, Just look.
Just look.
We now have it, and it is called Inox, and it is geared strictly to the men.
Huh.
And the prices are amazing. And, with the gold chains, we've got the white chains, we've got black chains, silver chains, with designs on them. It's wonderful. And where this story is going, my neighbors have 2 boys, ages, I think one is 1st grade, and I think the other one is 4th grade. Well, they each came in, they had to spend their Christmas money. They both bought a chain. Okay. Well, the older one came in a couple weeks ago and with his dad, and he goes, "We want to get a chain for my friend." I said, "Okay, tell me a little bit about your friend." "Well, it's his birthday tomorrow and I want to get him a chain." I look at Dad and I go, "Is that okay?" "Okay." I looked at him and I says, "Well, have you talked to his folks? Would this be okay for him? I'm used to, giving little things, Matchbox cars or whatever, birthday gifts."
We're beyond that.
Exactly. And he looked at me and he said, "No, I asked his mother and she said that would be fine." So he picked out a chain, and they're very reasonably priced. I have them starting at $25 on up.
And they're gold filled?
They're gold filled, but they're a heavy, heavy gold filled. So they are, but they are they're great.
Well, that's
in
good.
Now we're taking care of grade school kids with chains.
Yes. In our days, there were always class rings.
Yes.
Has that all completely gone by the wayside?
Almost. I do sell about 2 to 3 class rings a year, but that's about it.
And so there's not, or is there a certain design that a school uses time after time?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's all wide open. I've got some parents who would always buy their kids just a nice ring for graduation. And that's something that they could wear forever.
Yes.
Where a class ring, you tend to wear it in high school, and then it's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. That's exactly right. As soon as I went to college, I took it off.
Or you went to school, or you went steady, and then there it was on this chair.
Or with the yarn on I still have my husband's ring.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question. Our local jewelry store has a used ring section. And of course, there are lots of Black Hills gold rings and things in there, because that is has that gone out of style, or do people still want to purchase the Black Hills gold?
Black Hills gold is coming back.
Oh, okay.
And in North Dakota, I think it's so a lot of North Dakotans claim South Dakota.
Oh,
and that's where Black Hills gold started. Obviously, was in the Black Hills.
Yeah.
So we still sell them.
Okay. So do you have a used ring section?
We do not.
Okay.
We do have an estate section.
Ah, okay.
With some estate pieces, and the prices are awesome.
Yeah. Awesomely reasonable. Awesomely reasonable.
Very reasonable.
Oh, okay.
Very much so, especially with the price of gold.
Is that the tradition that most jewelry stores have, is to sell those estate jewelry pieces?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So
ours does, and as well as the used.
And I know the chain stores won't.
No.
Sure. Yes. Well, viewers, we've had a marvelous conversation with Susan Walker Weiand from Bismarck, North Dakota, who has told us about her family's generational jewelry store, started by her grandfather in Bismarck, Walker's and Jewelry, and which metamorphosed into Walker's and Daughters Jewelry Store. Thank you, Susan.
You're very welcome.
It's been delightful.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jackie, how can you close our program?
Well, I just want to remind viewers of that little book that's sitting up there in the corner, While the Windmill Watched, A Slice of Rural America in the 1950s. You go to the website and you'll find the vendors. We do not sell this book online. You won't find it on Amazon. We'd like to have the personal one-on-one vendor speak to you about this book. So until next time, tell your friends, even your relatives, about the 1950s Fun Chat. So toodaloo.
Bye-bye.